Yeah, so let us continue. So we have just talked about like how to perform delta detection based on what several options. Yeah, one based on all the columns, second based on date-based columns, third based on what our own way, which means we can use either user-defined columns or system-defined columns, which can be used what to perform delta. Yeah, fine. So let us start doing that. Yeah. So now the next step is going to be what? How to write a Java code. We just started that. Yeah, where I was trying to talk about what is a package location part and how to import Java utility classes. Then after that, we need to get into what Informatica specific classes. Yeah? So this is where we need to get what Siberian API.jar. Yeah, from where you are going to get it. We will get it from Informatica. So we just need to know like how to make use of that particular what jar files or packages. Can you see here? Siberian API.jar, Siberian common.jar. These are the two jar files that we are going to get it from Informatica. Plus, there is one more which is a free, which is for log for Java. That is for logging purpose. This anyway will get it free. Only thing is we need to get this Siberian API jar file and Siberian common file. Yeah. So that's what we need to do over here. Yeah, fine. Now the next thing is going to be what we need to start importing what class exception class, which we get it from where? One of the jar file. So let us extract this. Yeah, let us say we have what Siberian API.jar. Let's extract it here. Yeah. Now we can see what com Siberian, and then what we have here, MRM class API, MRM class API, and then class exception. Can you see here? After the extraction of this particular jar file, we could able to see what class exception class, right? So that's it. Yeah. And there is one more, which is what class function descriptor. So this particular class will be used to take care of exceptions, yeah? In case if you have any exceptions, and this particular worker class will be used to take care of read and write parameters. Yeah? So where do you have it? You can see as part of this particular package, which contains within this particular location. That's it. Yeah, fine. Now we have imported only the classes which are required. We can also specify star, which is not the best practice. So if you think from best practice perspective, we can specify what the actual class name which we are going to what make use of. Yeah. Now the next thing is going to be what we need to start writing our own Java code to extend the functionality. To do that, let us say we have a class name which is going to be what? CV address class. Yeah? I repeat, we have a name of the class which is CV address, which extends the functionality of what? BDD CV function. Remember, the extends keyword that we use within the Java in order to what? Inherit the properties and behavior from the base class. In this case, what? BDDCV function is going to be the base class. So we can inherit the properties and behavior, which means what? Methods that we have within this particular class. Now let us take a look at what like what we have within this BDDCV function class. So you'll have what is a basic utility class, which is going to what help us in order to what take care of those utilities in many other classes. This is the one, right? So now let us try to open this particular Java file. These things are same like what we discussed earlier, and then here also we can see same thing like cleanse function, which will be used here, and cleanse function descriptor. If there is a need to use whatever classes that you want to use within this class, right, then we can import only those classes from API package. Now let us try to look at this BDDCV function class, which is what abstract class, meaning what in Java abstract means what from outside nobody can instantiate this particular class. So which means what from outside nobody can create an object based on this particular class, or instance cannot be created based on this particular class. So people can only derive or inherit. That's where we use an extends keyword in a Java. Fine, so far so good, abstract. Now implements in Java, there is an implement keyword which will be used to what implement interface, which means what this is going to be the interface class, which will have pure virtual methods, which means what you will have only declaration with no definition in it. So which means what if you say implements with any interface class, then it is mandatory that whatever method that is declared or that are declared within this what class, we need to what override all of them over here. Can you see here? So for example, we have what string parameter method. So you will have only a declaration here. So we need to what define it. Override means what we need to define over here. So you will have what only this particular what interface within this cleanse function. So we need to fill this block, which is open brace, close brace. Within that we can put either do nothing method, or it could be with the real definition if you want to do that. So what this guy is returning, it is going to return parameter object which takes what three arguments, 1, 2, and then the type is what string. That's it. Similarly for date parameter, int parameter, float parameter, boolean parameter. There are what overridden from based on cleanse function class. So that's what we just imported this. We have used it and we have overridden this. Over. Now parameter also, which is what again one more class which is used over here. Fine. Now let us look at what other user defined utility based methods. For example, if you take this is valid indicator, which takes what two arguments, one with the type of map, second with the type of what string. Can you see we are using map class here? So that is why map has been what imported. Similarly, if you have used date, then date should have been imported. For example, here we are using date here, right, here and here, right. That's why date has been imported, which means specific classes have been imported over here. Fine. Yeah. So let us try to do that. Yeah. And next is what user defined methods. So there is a user defined method which is what is valid indicator. Yeah. So which will be used in order to look at the data that we get from input, store it in the intermediate variable which we call string object here, and check for nullability. Make sure that data that we get from source, which is from caller, it is not null. Then here once you check for not null, then this is going to be the not, exclamatory is a not. Then we are checking what this particular value, either it should be not equal to 0 or not equal to 1. Then it's going to return false. This means what? Input data should be either 0 or 1. Then it will be true or else it will be false. So here, in case if you get input other than 0 or 1 and 1, then it is going to return false. So if not, let's say if you get 0 or 1, control will not enter into this particular block. So it is going to return what? True. Yeah. So that's what happens with this particular simple is valid indicator method. So which returns what? Boolean, which can be used by all the derived classes or subclasses. Clear? That's about valid indicator. Now the next is what we have, one more user defined utility method, which is going to be what? Get status item, where it takes what? Two input arguments. It is just forming a message which contains what? Simple concatenation or append column, this one, static value, then one more, this one, and then static value. So which means what? This particular function is just forming what? The message. Once the message is formed, we can return value to the caller, which contains what? Simple concatenated output over here. Fine. Any questions here? So that's it. Now the next is what? Next user defined method is what? Is empty, which means what? Let us say if we get string value, that we need to check whether it is empty or not empty. So to do that, we can check for what? Null. Can you see here? Value equal to null, or after trimming, if you have any spaces, whatever, right? Then the length should be 0. Either it should be 0 or null. Then it is going to return true. If not, which means that if you get some not null value, then it is going to return what? False, because this length will be more than 0 and it is not null. So Boolean will be what? False. That's what happens. Yeah? So these are the what user defined methods. These are just examples, but based on whatever you need, right? You can write any number of iterative methods over here. Yeah, clear, right? So that is what we need to do in order to what extend the functionality to this particular hub. Now that we know how to take care of utility class and what and all we have in that we know. So if we say extends, all the methods and properties can be inherited to this particular class. Apart from that, there is a one static final. Final means constant with a string type. There is just like a macro or constant value, which is what? Validation status. This also can be protected, which means this also can be derived. Protected keyword will be used to for what? All the derived classes can make use of them. Public means what? Anywhere. Protected means what? Derived. Private means what? Within that particular class. For example, now we are coming back to what? Normal class, which is going to be what? CV address class, where there are some global static constants which are defined over here. For example, which is private to this particular class with a static, final means constant, with a string type. This is the name of this particular string, and constant value is what? Address line 1. Because when to go for this? In case if this particular what I call constant need to be used more than once in this particular Java file, then we can write this kind of global static variables. Or else if you want to use only once, there is no need to define this, because there is an unnecessary overhead, because there is a global visibility of this particular constant throughout this particular code or Java code, which is not a good practice. If you use more than once, then it is okay. Then the next is what, similarly for city name, start date and end date. That's it. So these are the what global static constants. Yeah. So once we define that, next step is going to be what we need to start getting into how to implement actual Java code. To answer that, as we all know that there are two important methods that we need to define. One is going to be what, get descriptor method, and second is going to be what, cleanse method. I repeat, there are two methods which we need to what define. One, get descriptor method, which is this, and second is what, cleanse method, which is this. Yeah. So we can define this functionality. Yeah. Now let us start getting into like how to define this particular functionality here, which is what, get descriptor functionality. Can you see here? Here we have what simple class, which is going to be the cleanse function descriptor. Yeah. So which is what imported here. Can you see here? Now we can make use of it because it is available here. Then create an instance, which is what, this complete line is what we call class instantiation or object creation. When you said new, which means what, we are going to get a chunk of memory which will be what we call stored against with what, descriptor object. So some chunk of heap memory will be allocated for this particular object. Once we do that, then we can populate data to that particular object because we have what, reserved memory. Now let us try to populate data descriptor dot, which means what, we are setting the name, setting the description, just like just to understand. Yeah. Now the main goal of this is what, main goal of what, get descriptor method is going to be what, to read what the parameters, it could be any type, string, date, integer, float, boolean, and so on. So in this particular cleanse function, which is going to be what, CV address, where we have 4 input parameters, namely address line 1, city name, start date and end date, which can be what which can be read by using what, string parameter. Where do you have string parameter? We can get it from this particular BDDCV function. How? Because we have used extends keyword over here. That's it. Yeah. Now the next is what, we are trying to add this particular, whatever we get it, right, using string, you will get a parameter object. We are going to add this parameter to where, descriptor object. Yeah. So which means what, within the descriptor we have get inputs and then start adding parameter object to that. Similarly, same thing need to be done for second input parameter, which is, let's say, city name, third is start date, fourth is what, end date. That's all we'll do, or we could do as part of what, all the input parameters. Clear, right? Any questions here? Yeah. So once we do that, next step is going to be what, out parameters. Based on in parameters, these out parameters will be populated after execution of this particular method, which is a built-in concept of what, Informatica template. That's why we need to use this template in order to what, implement your own what functionality. So this template is must, but your own code can be what, added as part of this cleanse method, which is over here. That's it. Yeah? So that's what we need to do. Yeah, fine. So let us try to understand like what cleanse functionality that we have within this cleanse method. Yeah. Sorry. So in this, what do we have? We have a string buffer which is mutable, which is created as a new object, and then y, if there is a string value which can be changed or mutable, then we create what? String buffer object. Then once we do that, next step is what? There is a method which we call user defined method, which is uppercase, which is passing what? 3 parameters. Yeah. And then once we call this particular uppercase, control will be sent to this particular method, where we could able to see what all these 3 input parameters and get the input from this particular field and check for what? Nullability, which means if the field name is not null, then what we are trying to do here, this field value, like whatever we stored in what is called temporary, right? It is getting converted to what? Uppercase. This is actual Java method which will use string dot uppercase, and once it is converted, we are storing that into output object, which is of what? Map type. So map is just like a key value pairs. What is the key here? This one, field name. What is the value here? This one. Where do you store it? Output object, which means what? This is going to be the out parameter. This and this, they are going to be the input parameter. That's it. Clear? Once we do that, then you will get what? Uppercase conversion happen to that. Similarly, for what second field, which is going to be the city name, again control will go over here, performs what? Uppercase conversion, provided if the field value, which means city name, like what you pass here, right? It should not be null. Yeah, that's it. Clear? Any questions here so far? So once you understand that, there is a third out parameter which is going to be, can you see here? There is a third out parameter which is a validation status. So how are we going to populating data to this particular third parameter, which is going to be what? Validation status. Yeah? To answer that, let us get this date column using what? Get date method, and store it into what? Date. Similarly, get the date end date and store it into the end, what you call it, what you call temporary date object. So where do you have this get date methods? You will have it in what? Utility class, which is a get date, where it is taking string and then returning to date object. That's all. That's what we have. Once we get that, then what is the goal here? Validation status. We need to check whether dates are okay or not. Yeah. To do that, first check for nullability, which is both start date and end date both are not null, and then what? Start date should not be after end date. Yeah. Start date should be always less than what? End date. Then only what things should be fine, or else if it is after, which means if it is greater than end date, right, control will enter into this particular if block where it is forming error message. Can you see here get status item, which we have seen right here? Yeah, here it is forming a message by taking two column dots status semicolon. Yeah. So which is what? Start date dot start date after end date semicolon. That's what message you get it. Then appending this to what? Status, which is going to be the what? String buffer. Then once you get it, then mapping, which is what output parameter, right? Output argument which we need to update. Output dot put validation status is what? Global, which is what this particular what this one, which we are going to update that with what? Status dot toString. This is a key, is a corresponding value. What is the value? Status dot toString, which is what? This one. Status contains this. But if the control doesn't enter here, which means what? Status is what? Empty. So which means what? If you get what? Empty, which means what? Start date, end date inputs are fine. If you get other than empty, then something wrong with the input of either start or end date. So that's what is the meaning of that. Clear, right? So with this, address line 1 will be updated with what? Uppercase. City name will be updated with what? Uppercase. Then this you'll get either error message, or you'll get what? Success or fail. Success, which is what? 0. So or empty. That's what will happen with this what? Inputs. And in order to populate these 3 outputs, we have talked about all of them. Then finally, complete descriptor object, right, which is filled in with what? Inputs and also outputs. Then it is going to return.